Hey y'all, it's your Unique Francois, and today we're about to be breaking down this art piece. Honestly, I've been wanting to make this video for the past year, but as I've learned, if you don't take action, it'll never happen. The reason I wanted to break down this piece in the first place is because, one, I love critiquing artwork. I love digging into the subject matter of my own work and other artists. I feel like this piece definitely deserved this moment because it was one of my earlier pieces. I feel like it really does lay a certain type of foundation for understanding my art journey. So let's get into it. The title of this art piece is Room Beautician. It was painted in, I want to say 2020. And 2020 for me was a really good year for art. I was making some really inspiring pieces in that specific time frame. Maybe it was being in quarantine. I think for me, it released the pressure of having expectations put on me and my art. Maybe that I was perceiving from other people, or maybe just myself. Since we were quarantined at home, I was like, well, I have to do this in a more direct and straightforward way because I don't have various resources. I had the paint that I had at the time. I had the canvases I had at the time, because stores weren't open and things of that nature. This is a structure I built. So this is 4 by 4 feet. I built the wooden frame that the canvas is stapled to. This is one of the structures I built myself as it was required for class. One thing that is good about going to school is that they will push you to not only learn new skills, that's what it's for, but they will also encourage you to utilize those skills. Don't just learn it and let that be it, but learn it and also utilize it. We were required to make, I think we had to make at least half of our structures, if not all of them. It's been a while ago, so I can't remember, but this is one of the pieces that I made during my time at undergrad. I went to the University of Texas at Arlington. This is one of those pieces. One of the reasons that this piece for me was a shift in how I was approaching painting is because this is the beginning when I was really interested into these washes. Now, I want to say this piece is acrylic. It has some marker and some glitter, but it definitely shows the interest that I had when working with various mediums, different finishes like to the paint. You can see a lot of transparent washes that it's acrylic and I watered it down with literal water. I really like the idea of some parts of it unraveling, like you'll see here through the knee, through the shirt, through the hair. I like the idea of some parts being looser and that contrasting with areas that are more described. And when we think about things being described, that's how much information is the artist providing the viewers. So we'll have the Let's Jam gel. That is very much described. It's pretty solid. It looked pretty specifically to how the actual product looked. And then we'll have something like the tank top. That's something that doesn't necessarily need much information besides it being an implied shape with maybe a marker line and then a little bit of green to emphasize the shape of that. But for the most part, it does show quite a bit of canvas and it has a bit of transparency, a bit of looseness there. That's something that I was enjoying at the time and something that I still utilize in my work to this day because I feel like the contrast provides a lot of visual interest. If everything is described like the Let's Jam jar, that's not bad, but it can feel like too much of the sameness, and too much of the sameness, it lessens the amount of visual variety that we have. At certain times can lessen the interest. So that is something that I was doing at this stage of seeing how much I wanted to be more described and less described, and how to balance those two visual aspects. Some things I really liked about this piece is the idea of lived experience and culture, also self-portraiture. That's something I'm interested in to this day. I love doing figurative work, that's my focus, but also I really enjoy doing self-portraits because I feel like, what do I know better than my own life? Not only my life, but in reimagining these scenes, it also allows for other people who have similar lived experience to be able to look at the pieces and be able to relate and know that we are living among each other and having shared experiences while still it being specific to your own life. With this, the Living Room Beautician, if you ever got your hair braided or you know somebody who braids hair, if you're a self-taught braider, which I am, I was braiding hair for years for not only my own family, not only my own hair, but also word of mouth. So if it's my little sister's soccer teammates, if it's their mothers, whoever it is, I was braiding hair. That was my little side hustle. Did I like it? Not necessarily, because I don't like braiding hair like that. I know how to do it and I can do a good job. But standing up for hours, not fun. Your fingers getting sore and cramped, not fun. That's just not something that I enjoy. I typically enjoy, but I was doing it. And that's an experience that I wanted to, in a certain type of way, archive through painting, because I feel like that is something that is so universally gone through, but it's something that I don't know if I've seen talked about that much, or that I've seen visually depicted that much, but it's such a part of daily common black girl life. I feel like even if you're not getting your hair done by a braider, your mom as a child brushing your hair up on the couch, you sitting on the floor, she's sitting on the couch above you, like that self-care beauty ritual being done, and being very specific to black culture, for my experience, black Southern American culture. So with this painting, when I like to visualize, when I like to critique things, I like to start so simply that it almost feels elementary and build upon that. I like to think about color, shape, line quality, paint quality, subject matter, and really describe what I'm seeing to not only help myself place the pieces of what's visually going on, but also what stands out to me and how I feel about it. So with this piece, we can see that it's very brightly colored. We can see that there's a focus on two figures. We can see that the figures are semi-active. This one is a little bit more stationary as it's sitting down, and this one is facing us, and we can see more of the action that she's doing. We can name things that we see in the painting. So we can see a Whataburger cup. The thing that I liked about the Whataburger cup, I don't even know why I decided to add it, but I like the addition of it because not only is it something that brings it down to a casual common life, it's a fast food, but it's a specific fast food. It's something that's mainly in Texas, right? So if you live in Texas, you know exactly what that is. If you're not from Texas, you can kind of know that it's probably fast food because of the shape of it, and it's a fast food cup, so it's not necessarily hard to grasp that concept. But I like the idea of objects communicating to you things that doesn't have to be wrote out. So by that cup, you can kind of tell, oh, maybe this is in Texas because I'm from Texas and we got Whataburgers. It's something that feels down to earth, and that's what I enjoy. When you get into fine art spaces, it can feel very elite in some regards. It can feel very cloudy with jargon and academic speech and concepts. So when you have something that is more down to earth while still maybe partaking in that fine art conversation, that's things that I enjoy. So things like the Whataburger cup will give you an idea of where this image, the artists, the people, where they're from, where they're around. Things like the Let's Jam. That is very specific. As you look at it, it looks like something that exists in real life. It looks like it's based on something because, well, it is. It's a very specific demographic of people who are going to see that and immediately know what it is and what it's used for, and might even be surprised that it makes its way into a painting, because while we have more representation these days, I don't know if it's so overwhelmingly, such an overwhelming amount that you'll expect to see that in a fine art space. If you was braiding hair, I don't know if people still use Let's Jam. There's so many different gels now that there's probably things that people like better possibly. When I was braiding hair, I was using Let's Jam. I don't know how many drops of that I went through. If you a braider, you know you about to have, sometimes you're gonna have a little bit of gel to soak that hair down into that braid. If you're very skilled, which I happen to be a little bit skilled, you don't always need gel, but sometimes it's something about the smell, it's something about the texture, it's something about that using extra tools to make the job feel more completed. So I was using Let's Jam, And of course I had to add that in there. Added in the wide tooth comb, the rat tail comb. What I liked about the rat tail comb, which a lot of these decisions were made as I was trying to be as authentic to life that I could be. So with the rat tail comb, of course, it's about to be missing some teeth because that's just how it is. It's rarely about to have all the teeth on that type of comb because it's just not about to have that. So to see a comb like that, it just feels natural to life. And that's with my work is something that is very important to me as I make these figurative paintings and I focus on self-portraits and also portraits of other people. How much of real life can I embed in this visual description of this person, place, or thing? So little details like that, I really try my best to be observant and capture them and not just put, okay, here's some her stuff, here's some pretty stuff, here's some stuff that we know to be culturally specific because we see people talk about it quite a bit and we know directly what they're referencing. Something like grills. It's like, let me put a grill in there. Like, a grill don't need to be in this one. Like, it's just not, it's not what I'm going for because I'm going for a very specific lived experience. I do want to talk a little bit about material because as I'm looking at this painting, I'm getting a little bit irritated because I can't remember what marker I was using at the time, but since then it has faded. So one of the things with my work is I like to use, historically through my practice, affordable materials because I like writing them out on the art card where you can see the materials that the artist has used. So I like using paints such as Craftsmart, that really cheap. I think it might be like 96 cents for the little tube of paint because I made some really beautiful artworks with that paint. And I like the idea of you using very simplistic, cheap materials and creating a work of art that can stop people in their tracks because I feel like it communicates to the viewer that you don't have to necessarily use the finest, most expensive materials to still make an impact. Because as young artists, sometimes you feel like your art may not be up to par because of the lack of access to more expensive materials. With that being said, the marker used is not archival. Archival. It didn't last the test of time because it's now faded, and that's something that will be a concern when using materials that are more cheaper. If they're not light fast, then they won't last the test of time because that pigment is going to fade. So that, looking at that, it had rubber bands on the canvas and hair clips on the canvas, and they have now since faded. And that's something that I don't like because if I look at older pieces, how much of the markers have faded? Like, what the F? I thought that stuff was good. So now, that one thing that I have learned as I've grown as an artist is that although materials can communicate things, I also want to make sure that the work is going to last the test of time without having to be worked into after it's been completed. And also thinking about the clothing of the figures. Like, when you breaking down something, break it down. Who do you know was wearing something like that? Is it your sister? Is it your cousin? We could kind of look at this image and get to the conclusion that these people are probably close to each other, whether it's family or close friends. She wearing a tank top and some shorts. She wearing a tube top and some shorts. So we could think it's probably hot. They're comfortable because she ain't got no shoes on. So she is either in her house and that's her sister. She at her cousin's house or her friend's house. They're close in relation because of the clothing being worn. It's a very relaxed environment. She's not wearing no uniform to do her hair. That's this little chair, this simplistic chair, probably came from the kitchen, might have came from by the counter. It's not done up in a way that is fanciful. Details that I added to it, like maybe the jewelry, maybe the nails, the nose ring, the lashes, the piercings. These are all details I added to give the people not only their own personality upon looking at them, but also information about the demographic of, like, there's only going to be certain girls who have piercings, certain girls who wear their hair natural and things of that nature. So you can look at something and be like, oh, that's a nice picture of some girls braiding hair. But I think when you sit with it a little bit longer, it could tell you details like that can tell you a little bit about who these people are, and where do they exist at, right? One thing that I did enjoy about this piece was the atmosphere created by the wash of paints in the background. I used to really be concerned with making sure that the blank canvas had not only like the primer, the layers of primer, but also had washes of acrylic paint to really have something for me to build upon. I didn't like painting on raw white canvas because I liked having some of these parts be transparent and very lightly done. I wanted you to be able to see through to the canvas, but with it being entirely white, it just felt unfinished, but it didn't necessarily read as intentional to me. So that's when I started really having these washes and having brush work to give it foundation to then build on top of. With the phones and the chargers, I like that idea so much when I painted it because, hello?
Hold on. Is it really at home?
Yes.
Can you tell him to call me?
Okay.
Alright, thank you.
Bye. Grandmother! So like with the phones, I won't care. As a braider, sometimes there has been times where I need to put down the hair, put down the braid, wipe my hands of the grease and gel, and text somebody back because it's a very important conversation that needs to be had. So if you look at the text message thread and how I have all this blue, so that means the motherfucker was texting like this. You have to get the bars off. It's just like the idea of life going on as we're doing other things. I like the idea of life existing outside of canvas. So that's one of the reasons why I love having created scenes like this, because not only is something happening right here in front of you, there is life happening outside of this canvas. And imagine that. Imagine being able to witness a storyline being told through the squares of different canvases, because this is an image, and if you're visual enough, you could probably even see it move and shift, and you can imagine the animation of the scene taking place. Outside of that, think about the job of the artist to paint an image, to describe it enough and explain it enough, like visually with the paint strokes, to let you take a peek inside their head. Like that's when you think about like being an artist. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool because you're inviting somebody to view the world with you. You're lensing them your eyes and your vision and your imagination for them to take a physical view at how you see the world. I see the world, I personally see the world very colorfully. Like things can be very vivid. Whenever I take pictures and whenever I paint, I'm always up in the saturation. That's just something that makes sense to my optic nerves. That's how I see the world. You're about to see a lot of shimmer. This is when I was starting to use copper and gold metallic paints to describe the skin. And yes.
You just started on your video?
Mm-hmm.
You come out, then you get through that.
Okay. So that's something that I was using to really describe the skin. The copper and gold metallic paints. Using that to describe the skin is something that I was very excited about because I feel like it has a certain type of movement. You see the light shift across it and you can see the finish of the paint. It just has a quality that for me is enjoyable to look at. And if I imagine myself being a viewer outside of having created the artwork, I feel like it'll be, if I was to see this, I'm like, oh, that looks kind of cool. I want to get a closer look at that, which is always important. You always want to make something that you want to exist and make something that you would enjoy to see in the world, instead of making something that you feel that people will connect with because of previous artists' works. It's like, oh, people like this type of stuff, let me make something that looks like that because I want somebody to like it like they like that. You have to be able to take a risk to step out of your comfort zone and make something new to you, and something that will exist in a world that you had a purpose in making. I want to have that moment described through painting because I feel like that gave it a moment to shine in a way that felt serious. It felt intentional. I wanted that space for some other Black American Southern girls to be able to see it and be like, oh, that's me. Oh, I know exactly what that is. There are so many times where we're left out of conversations intentionally and no one cares to invite us in, that having something that is targeted and specifically for us is something that I enjoy, because if it don't exist and I know how to paint, it's then I'm gonna take that job of making it come to be in a way that relates to me. With this piece, I feel like it was, I'm still happy about this piece. Like, I'm not looking back like, oh, you could have did this better, you could have did that, you could have did that. It's like, this is a piece that I'm still happy of as far as at the time of it existing. Even the size of it, like, I wanted it to be big because I wanted to feel like it's a living room that you could walk into. Painting at 4x4, those big paintings can have a nice really weighty impact that you might look for as a painter. The only thing about that is the like logistics aspect of transporting it. If somebody's to buy this, the idea of shipping that, will it be taken off the frame and rolled up and sent to them and they'll get somebody to restretch it, or will it be sent completely like this in a big box through whatever shipping facility that can handle a large scale painting? So logistically, storage, thinking about storage, like where are you gonna continue to like store a piece of this size when you're making multiple? That stuff start adding up really quick. There's been a few times where I've painted this big since then. Since I've started making works on paper with watercolor, I've started making works on loose leaf canvas that can be rolled up or even just stacked up, pinned up in front of each other. But I do really appreciate the weight that this one has visually and physically. If you go around the side, you can see the thickness of the wood that was made to make this. So all of that does add to the piece. If you're a young artist, it may not feel like that's having a big impact because you would assume that people are just looking at what's going on as it's described. But even something like a big brush and a little brush, the variety of brush strokes will add interest in a way that feels, it may feel subtle to you, like how will they even tell? Like, I'm just filling in the color. You'll be able to tell because the way that the paint lays on a canvas will be different from a small brush to a big brush, of course. Even if you're just laying, if you feel like you're just filling it in with color, it'll still transfer unless you're doing something that is very opaque and very smoothly applied, where you're getting rid of all those brush strokes. You'll be able to pick up on the complexities of the weight of the brush. This is one of my earlier pieces. I feel that you can see where I was going with this and see how it has translated into my more recent work, which we'll get into that in a future video. If you stayed this far, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you know where to leave them down below in the comment box. Leave me a comment. Let's have a little open dialogue. Let's have a little discussion. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you like about the video. Please like, again, comment, and subscribe so you can see more. Until next time.